My understanding is that male masculinity is having a problem because obviously there's some gaps that we are dealing with. So, what is the state of male masculinity for you?
If you want to see what it's about, go to the website for the People's Republic of China or that one for the Russian government, and you can see it. They do regular man up campaigns. For the last four some years under the Biden administration, we'd been doing sissy stuff. They've got young men doing push ups, running, hitting hard, doing martial arts, shooting, going through the mud. And the United States Department of Defense had some animation where they had a woman talking about she had two mothers and
Mm.
she belonged to a sorority. Now she's joined the army, and it's so exciting. And then she morphs into a real person, and it's got nothing to do with making war. It's a social thing. What has happened is that over the last 50 years, the communications industry, the entertainment industry, and the news industry have been acquired by the same feminist oriented group. They're sissied up real tough, and they've been systematically propagandizing to destroy masculinity because they don't like it.
Mm.
You tell a lie long enough and loud enough, and you can get anyone, including the liar, to believe it, and that's like propaganda maxim. So, what they've done is they've used their lock on what is considered the best propaganda engine in the world. The Nazis used the model based on what the U.S. entertainment industry was
Wow.
doing. So did the communists all over the world, and they've been putting it to use internally in the United States and in the Western world for 50 years to sissy the boys up. This thing about getting in touch with your emotions started off 55 years ago. Men didn't learn to emote, to cry, to shout, to let it all out, hang out instead of being so uptight and under
Right?
control, man. War is a bad thing, man. So if we can
Mm.
encourage the boys to be more emotional, we'd have no more war, man. And all that
Mm.
crazy garbage going on in the late 60s and early 70s became manifest in what we've got now. Even hard rap, it's like, excuse the language.
No, go
Uh,
ahead.
how many bitches and hoes do you have working for you? Men aren't supposed to uh, depend on women to support them. That's a sassy move. And then you looked at
Yep.
Diddy, and you saw the pimp game. They made it something else, but the Mann Act was from 1911. It's 114 years old. And basically, that's what you were looking at. That was just the pimp game, a mild edition of it. It's parasites who parasitize females with crazy reputations that can't get away from the whole game because they stay on the whole track. You can get them away from the pimp, but they won't stay off the whole track. So we looked at that, and you see how it was. People get all upset about it, but
Mm.
you tune into something and it says, "Man, pimp your ride, man."
Right.
And see, that's a sissy thing because what rating do we have? RX what on this?
This is just open conversation.
Is in the old penitentiaries. The only people that they get them in the penitentiaries than the pimps were the pedophiles. And that's the ideation. And everybody's in my mind, I got me folk ladies take good care of me. They gives me everything I need, man. I ain't got nothing to do. Two of them get AFDC, one get a crazy chick, and one got a JOB, man. They takes care of me. Little sleazy gigolo, which is a male hoe.
That was one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and I think you are hitting the nail on the head. Is this masculinity that's portrayed these days with our young men? There are so many different traits that are very feminine, right? In the way that they express themselves emotionally, it's more feminine than actually masculine.
I was out 15 years working on the periphery of that industry because I refused to get too deeply involved in it because of how sissified it was. You look at the action adventure and the hero in the on the movie screen, yeah, man, we got to do it. And then when you see this little flame alpha got this weak wrist flapping around, and he's talking about how he's so thrilled and all those almost creamed on himself when he was playing
Mm.
rough trade. You go, oh man, wow. And then see, look at this guy that they've got for the NFL Super Bowl coming up. People are talking about they're upset because he's Hispanic or he said something wrong against ICE. Hell no, some bitch had on a damn dress and is mourning him on more than one occasion. That's what's wrong with him. You know, that's not for a guy to wear crap like that. Broadcaster, you have problems.
But that's what's perpetuated though in media is that so many of our boys look to media, right? Because our positive role models, such as yourself growing up and so many other people who we look up to in media, they're not given that light. But what is given light is you got guys who wear dresses, you got guys who do things just for money, like you got P. Diddy, you got even like the hip hop industry. Our boys shouldn't look to that. I mean, I like hip hop. I'm a person who I listen to it, but I listen to it because I work out to it. Or it's like I know it's fiction, but our boys don't realize that it's fiction and they buy right into that perpetuated stereotype.
Rap, it's old, boring, and dead. For the last 100 some years, music fads have lasted on average 7 to 9 years. This stuff's been going on next to 40. Think it's tired, and there's a financing backing to the whole industry that makes a lot of money because too many young males all around the Western world are, you know, seeking something that seems masculine. But the weird thing is on hard hip hop gangster rap in the video, it's not really masculine. You got all these half naked babes bouncing around, but that's
Yep.
really not what the rappers or anybody else are playing with. That looks like their grandmama's mama and favorite aunts pouring it out on the back step in June or July behind the projects.
Right.
They're trying to get laid, get knocked up, and get a bigger check. And then get some damn fool playing drone coming by there to share in the check because he ain't got a job and his job is making him feel good. The whole idea it's and what it's perpetrating is nothing positive. It's not talking about love. It's not talking about working hard. It's talking about moving grams and
Yeah.
he's rapping. So damn what? Uh, you're a poet. You do it to some music, but it's a cheap way of getting into the entertainment industry because you don't really have to learn how to play an instrument and all the rest of that. So I mean, it's a cheap way to get entertainment out there. Uh, for what it's worth, it's not so much the form, it's what's said with it. See how ludicrous it is. Summer gets some bully young girls, 18, 19, 20 college students, and they're riding in a convertible that somebody's daddy bought one of them. They've got the top down, they're all hot, and they're in there bopping and making the moves while the lyrics are saying bitches and hoes, and it's like, what kind of mess is this? It's also screwing up the girls too, because what it's done is put in the girls' heads some nasty poisonous stuff to them that they will pass on to the sons that they will probably have outside of a family situation because it's a top thing to do. That started off years ago with now dead poet Nikki Giovanni and some others back in the
Mm-hmm.
60s who were going around saying that you don't need a man because all men do is put you in the prison of being married. Well, marriage is an
Mm.
ancient human institution, a cultural thing that backs up our physiological breeding patterns and rearing children. What they're calling
Mm.
toxic
Okay.
masculinity is the absence of masculinity. One of the classic propaganda tactics is to take something that has really no connection except in terms of an absence, and then try to make it closely approximated to something you want to attack. Like, in other words, if you're talking about uh, somebody having a lack of income, instead
Mm-hmm.
of getting on them to give up making income, what you do is you attack making have income and start saying it's greed and it's cutting somebody out and it's
Mm.
not fair. if somebody is making big money, and black folk are supposed to be broke down, busted, and crime is supposed to be a natural part of their environment and culture. And if you talk
Right.
about being crime free, then somehow that's white supremacy. See, in other words, black folk are just as moral as anybody else, just as beholden to standards of treating your next door neighbor right.
Okay.
So they talk about that. You want a fool to help perpetrate something? There was something on X, which was one of the goddamnedest things I've ever heard in my life of rank stupidity. Some
Okay.
black female, Negro female, young, was ranting and raving about she couldn't stand white folks and white supremacy. So we need
Mm.
segregation so we don't have to put up with them. The damn fool doesn't realize that the caveat is it wasn't about integration. It was desegregation, because segregation was like going to the park these days and you see the signs up that say no dogs allowed, or
Yes,
dogs
sir.
must be on leash, dogs can run free. It was no Negroes allowed, or Negro must be accompanied by a responsible white person, or Negro must have a pass, or colored only. In other words, what it was a sanction, a prohibition, where you didn't get the option of making a choice. You were just like a dog, but you had two legs, so you were excluded.
Mm.
So a fool wants to talk about we need to return to where somebody got her, gave her permission to be somewhere, and she's talking about integration is a white supremacist thing, and she's tired of dealing with white folk. Well, hell, if she wanted to return to segregation, is the damn fool supposed to be advocating that she needs white people's permission to be somebody she feels like being? The
Where?
goddamnest, dumbest thing
Yeah.
I've ever heard in my life. Ill wits don't think. They don't teach people critical thinking, analytical thinking, reasonable, rational, logical, detached, and objective thinking. It's all about your beliefs. No, I don't respect the fool's beliefs. They're
Right.
full of it. And I don't respect him nor his ideas. He's got a right to
Right.
say it because that is the First Amendment, and I uphold that. But I'm not supporting this damn fool, and I don't respect the BS that he's spewing out of his mouth because his head's crazy. So, I
Wow.
mean, but you see, we deal with emotionalism because beliefs are emotional. And where does that come from? It's a physiological fact that males do not have the rich synaptic connection between the left brain and the right brain that females do. So that means
Mm.
our emotions are divorced from our rational, logical side. But there are some, or I guess, when you do an autopsy on them, you find out that there are richer synaptic connections. So they
Okay.
emote like females, and now they are in league with the feminists, and they drive the communications, entertainment, and news
Yeah.
industries. And they've been trying to perpetrate this thing for 50 some years where everybody's supposed to emote. Now that's good for the women to do that. It holds
Right.
families together, makes life a little bit more pleasant. They're sweet to have your arm around, and but that ain't you. You're supposed to be out there providing, protecting, previewing, exploring, getting it together. You're supposed to be the one that finds the trail where the game is, where you can bring in the protein to help feed your tribe or your clan or your cave or your village. You're supposed to be making it safe for people to be about their other kind of business.
Mm.
We don't
You
have the same life expectancy women do because it
you're
wasn't a
exactly right.
survival trait. You mostly were going to die doing what you did as a man. And we set up a culture where it was glorious to do that kind of thing for the right reason. But now we got this fear thing, oh my God, it was so terrifying. Oh, hell no. And people go off and do a lot of what looks to be brave stuff, but it's not, because it's suicidal. There's brave about you hating yourself, having suicide ideation, and you decide to either put the gun to your head and it ain't wartime or something like that, or you take the poison known as some kind of drug, fentanyl, cocaine,
Yeah.
crack, heroin, or something like that. Or you do suicide by cop, and the latest one is suicide by neighbor. You go and provoke your neighbor into killing you and doing you that favor because you want to check out because you don't like yourself. And oh, by the way, since you don't like yourself, you don't like anybody else, so you don't mind taking your neighbor out. Or, if you kill your neighbor, you might feel better because you displace some of your own self hate. See, it's crazy what they're doing to the boys. And you've got all these mothers who don't have a father figure around, a granddad around, an uncle
Yes,
around,
sir.
and they can say, I can do it by myself. And they F up
Mm-hmm.
these boys who have no sense by the time that they get grown, and the boys think like they are girls. I swear they do. And then see the other thing, I got raised mom and dad, but when mama had me, she was shopping or going to the beauty salon, the women would all be talking about how no good men were. But then when you're with dad, he and his buddies were talking about how immature women were. They need guidance and you have to protect them and indulge their, you know, foibles
Mm-hmm.
and idiosyncrasies and humor them. But it's a man's job to so and so. See, you heard both sides and you look to see
Yes,
who
sir.
who. And okay, I'm a man, I'm gonna be one, so that's mine. My job is to protect and to provide for. But yeah, they aren't the ones that have the be all end
Mm-hmm.
all on being wise. That's our see. We
You,
provide advisement, but
yes, sir.
men should provide the guidance. But we don't understand that because when it all hits the fan, we've got to provide the protection, and we're the first to die. So if you're the
Yes,
first to
sir.
die, you get to call the shot. Now, that other stuff, you're a fool if you don't listen to somebody who is wise trying to give you some advice if she's your woman. If she's the
Mm-hmm.
woman listening to this, then she's a fool if she can't take guidance. But you have to be worthy and prepared of giving guidance and prepared to give guidance. She has to be
Wow.
worthy of giving the advisement and wise enough to give it. So that requires a mission, but we get to banging it around and it gets
Yeah.
crazy because the media, the culture, has said men are horrible. And look at what the
Mm-hmm.
stats are. For the last 25 years, only 28% of each year's high school graduates have been male. That's ridiculous. Only
Mm-hmm.
32% of each year's college undergrads are male, and only 36% of each year's college grad students are male, and only 44% of the American workforce is male. That is an absolute disgrace. And then we have a thing for all populations in the country, all ethnic groups. 42% of all people in the United States, 35 and under, were born out of wedlock, and it's over 80% if they're under 20. That's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that's bad about it, see, when you have a workforce that's only 44% male, you get a whole lot of drive-bys and criminal behavior and compensations for not being able to deal with your biological function of being a protector and a provider.
Back in the day, like when you were growing up, what's the difference from masculinity then to how it is now? Like, what was better?
Well, it's a sense of being able to do something. See, when I was coming up, my father had been in World War II. Uncles and some of their younger friends had been in the Korean War. Vietnam hadn't occurred yet. We had people who had been in World War One and real old folk who had understood what it was with a frontier situation. So women knew what men were about. They were protectors, they were providers. And we had an economy that had gone through the Great Depression, and people had suffered through that. And before that, grandparents, plenty of them, who had to go out and earn a living, and nobody had thermostats on the wall that you could set your temperature and microwaves and stuff like that. They
Wow.
had to chop wood. They had to go through picking greens, and we got this thing now. Everybody wants fresh food. I want real greens, out of the produce department. My generation, you couldn't get a black woman, white woman to go get fresh greens because they wanted them in cans because they were sick of going through knocking the bugs and the worms off and getting dirty and their hands scratched up. They wanted the modern stuff. See, it's been a change because they've glorified dysfunction in all kinds of ways. Now, look at one thing.
Yeah.
Got old folk that are 100 years old, 99, 98 years old, 105. They didn't grow up eating all of the health food. They ate that old time stuff out of cans. But they did some other stuff. They got up and they
Mm-hmm.
worked out. They stayed fit because they had demanding jobs. So they just did it because they continued what they had been up to when they were in the military. In the
Okay.
Nam, that was my generation. Uh, Korea, World War II, that was a generation in front of me, and the one in front of me, them too, World War One, and everybody got in. Now, look at it. We appreciated beautiful women.
Yep.
Objectification of beauty was an important thing because if humans didn't do it, we'd still be looking like chimps and gorillas. But look at Sports Illustrated magazine. For
Mm-hmm.
years, they've had the fittest male athletes in there. They ran track and they played football, baseball, they boxed, they swam, they rode bicycles, they played soccer and rugby, and they
Mm-hmm.
put in the comparable physical specimens of femininity. Beautiful women. Now they got fat slob women in there. They couldn't run from the front porch to the street because they'd fall out with a heart attack, and that's supposed to be beautiful. No, well, they still have those guys, young men in there that are physically fit. They don't have fat couch potatoes who have
Right.
strong thumb muscles from playing big games in Sports Illustrated. So they need to. Wasn't it about equality? So be equal.
Right.
If it's physical fitness, then be physically fit.
You actually say the things up front that a lot of us talk about when we're in our inner circles.
It's not masculine to suppress that. Just say it any damn way. They can't
Okay.
cancel everybody because 50% of the human race got a dick. They ain't cutting it off and going to the vet and getting fixed. What the
Yes, and
only way they get
I'm
away with this is because we allow it.
I really don't hold back much, but I do get the resentment from people. I want to be accepted, but I want to be accepted for myself. I don't want to pretend to be a white person. I don't want to pretend to be anybody else but myself. But I feel like we do a better job of canceling each other than we do with anybody else. But it seems like if you don't act like this certain stereotype that people want you to be, then you're not accepted. It's strange to me.
Does a successful white person act any different than a successful Chinese person in China, a successful Japanese person in Tokyo, a successful African in Pretoria or Nairobi, successful anybody? See, in other words, there's a masculine success model. So it become poisonous except by this nasty dysfunctional propaganda to be normally masculine. It's poisonous.
It's definitely poisonous. And I feel like a lot of our young men, instead of looking at the people who we look at as masculine, those people get titled as non masculine. One of your segments I had, you talked about how masculinity was very entrenched in the community. Like when a man wanted to be masculine, they wanted to show that to their community. They didn't want to destroy their community. They wanted to uplift it and build it. They wanted to go to war to come back to be praised by their communities. For some reason, we got some shit very messed up in our culture as African American people. And we have to get it on track because we're only 13% of the population. But I fear in the next 50 years, we'll be down to 6% because all of our men are leaving and all of our women are going elsewhere or they're dating each other.
Well, we can turn it around.
How?
You're doing it right now. You're
Mm.
speaking out against it. It only works because the impression is that everybody accepts it. They don't. The propaganda that promotes it is all we hear.
And if it's four things that I can tell them that Judge Joe Brown wants them to know when it comes to masculinity, our boys, what would it be?
Be prepared. Develop your body, develop your mind, develop your character. Be brave and courageous.
I really appreciate you, man. I will see you soon. Thank you for being on the show.